I wanted to give you guys an update on the baby formula shortage. This is unironically a fantastic thing that just happened now. Biden invokes the Defense Production Act to address infant formula shortage. So this is what, a lot of people were calling on him to do this for a few weeks now, since the news really hit that there's a baby formula shortage. And honestly, I'll be honest with you, I had no hope that he was going to do it. But apparently he just did it. President Biden on Wednesday invoked the Defense Production Act to address the infant formula shortage in the United States. The White House announced in a fact sheet that Biden would use the Cold War-era law to require suppliers to direct needed resources to infant formula manufacturers before any other customers who may have ordered that good, directing firms to prioritize and allocate the production of key infant formula. Inputs will help increase production and speed up supply chains, the fact sheet said. Additionally, the White House said Biden is launching Operation Fly Formula that will involve the federal government using Defense Department commercial aircraft to pick up baby formula from overseas that meets U.S. standards to get it quickly to American shelves. Now, let me just say, on this point real quick, what you need to understand is they actually have better standards overseas. Like, many European countries have better standards for their baby formula than we have for our baby formula. So not only is it, equal in quality, it's actually better in quality. So this is something that should have been the case already, but they're doing it now. Better late than never. In a letter to Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra and Agricultural Secretary Tom Vilsack, Biden said the action was needed to boost the supply of formula while domestic production ramps up. He ordered their departments to work with the Pentagon over the next week to use contracted aircraft to quicken imports of baby formula from overseas. Quote, imports of baby formula will serve as a bridge to this ramped-up production. Therefore, I am requesting you to take all appropriate measures available to get additional safe formula into the country immediately, Biden wrote. The announcement followed calls from some Democrats like Senator Kirsten Gillibrand for Biden to invoke the Defense Production Act to address the critical shortage. A bipartisan group led by Representative Josh Gottheimer introduced a resolution earlier Wednesday calling on Biden to invoke the law to increase domestic production of baby formula. The law allows the president, through executive order, to direct private companies to prioritize production of critical supplies in an emergency. Biden and former President Trump used the authority in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, although they didn't use it enough. They should have used it more, and for various things, like, the Regeneron antibody treatment. Obviously, vaccines is what it was used for. The formula shortage occurred after an Abbott Nutrition was shuttered back in February over reports of babies falling ill after ingesting formula from the facility. The Food and Drug Administration has been investigating the plant. On Monday, reached an agreement with Abbott on a path forward to reopening the plant in Sturgis, Michigan. So they weren't cleaning their plant properly. And so some babies got bacterial infections that were nasty, and a couple ended up dying. And so, obviously, when that happened, the path forward would have been, hey, deep clean your entire facility, and then get back to work, right? And have the FDA oversee it. But of course, since nothing works in this country, and we're like a failed state, that didn't happen. They shut the plant down and just let it sit there. As, they were moving as slow as a snail behind the scenes to eventually even consider opening it back up. So then after the baby formula shortage hit, it was like, oh God, maybe we actually need this plant. And, maybe we should hurry up with whatever we're doing right now. The closure of the factory, coupled with supply chain woes, has spawned a nationwide shortage of baby formula that has left parents scrambling. The White House has been under immense pressure to do more to address the baby formula shortage over the past week. Officials have announced a series of actions, including 2 new FDA guidance aimed at boosting imports of formula from abroad not typically sold in the U.S. Okay, so this is good. This is a good thing that he's doing this. You could argue, hey, he should have done it a week or two ago. Agreed, but it is completely needed that he's doing it now. So credit where it's due. Now, one of the talking points that I heard a number of times, and it's a talking point I used myself, is at the time when the baby formula shortage really hit in the news and we understood what was going on, what was Congress working on? Congress was working on another $40 billion package to send to Ukraine. $40 billion of weapons and things of that nature. Now, Nancy Pelosi was giving a speech on the floor over this and basically saying, if you're wondering why we're sending the $40 billion to Ukraine, think of the Bible. And she cited a Bible verse as to, how it may have been the one where it was when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was cold, you clothed me, whatever. I think it may have been that one, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, so Pelosi citing the Bible as to why it's so important we send another $40 billion to Ukraine. By the way, which round are we on sending stuff to Ukraine? 5th round? 6th round? Now, I understood arming them in the wake of the Russian invasion, as long as those arms aren't going to the Azov battalion. Like, I get it. You want them to have some defensive capability. I'm on the side of that. But now we're on, like, round number 4 or 5 or 6 or some shit. And we're neglecting problems here at home. And, by the way, there are no checks and balances to make sure that weapons aren't going to the hands of the Azov battalion. So what are we doing? We're pissing away $40 billion overseas, and they won't even give millions of dollars to address the baby formula crisis here at home. So that's a point that I made. It's like, okay, you're focusing on this. We have a baby formula crisis here. What are you doing? What are you doing? And this was a talking point that a lot of Republicans started using. Republicans would be like, why are you sending the money to Ukraine when we should be, spending it on baby formula here? And the second I heard any Republican make that argument, my initial reaction was like, you better shut the fuck up with that point, because if a vote comes up on baby formula stuff in Congress, you're going to vote against it. Because I know how the Republicans are. They're not in favor of, like, free baby formula or subsidized baby formula. They don't want to subsidize Dickie McGee's acts unless it's for a giant multinational corporation or one of their Wall Street goon buddies. And guess what? Proved right yet again. $28 million. That's it. $28 million. We just gave $40 billion to Ukraine. $28 million for baby formula shortage. 192 Republicans voted against it. 192. 192. Only 12 Republicans voted for it. Only 12. By the way, you know who one of the people was who voted against this? The new darling of resistance liberals and mainstream media, Liz Cheney. And this is why I tell you guys, don't stop rehabilitating like the anti-Trump Republicans, because they vote the same way as the Trump Republicans. They vote with the establishment across the board. Just because she says, hey, trying to do a coup is bad, doesn't mean that suddenly the rest of her voting record is good. The rest of her voting record is abysmal. It's abysmal. Voting against baby formula during a baby formula shortage. While again, a lot of these absolute clowns were making the comparison previously, why are we spending money in Ukraine? We should spend it here on baby formula. Then something comes up to spend it here on baby formula, and they're like, I'm against that. Oh my God. They're such liars and frauds. I hate them so much. I really do. I really do. Now, but thankfully, like I said, Biden invoked the Defense Production Act, which means he actually doesn't even need what Congress is doing here. It'd be nice if Congress passed this to throw more money at the problem, but they didn't pass it. But Biden can still do the Defense Production Act. So anyway, there you have it. It's good that they're doing the Defense Production Act, and everybody who voted against this should be ashamed of themselves.